Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about the Natasha Denona Aeris palette. It is one of her holiday palettes out this year. I recently picked this palette up during the VIB sale at Sephora, so I did save 20% off it, but normally it retails for $61 Canadian. You do have 5. You've got 2 like shimmer shadows, 2 more metallic, and then 1 matte here. And I really was drawn to the color scheme. I really do enjoy warm colors, but I also like bright blues, and I like the way that they play together. They like the contrast between these two, or even the darker red and this, well, frankly, the blue with all of them. I like the blue. I don't think it's worth $60. And in fact, I plan on returning it. Spoiler. For me, I think I mentioned this in my recent Sephora VIB sale haul, whatever I called it, video, which I will link there. When you price a 5-pan palette at $60, I, as a consumer, am going to expect that it is going to blow my socks off. I expect full pigmentation, easy to blend, and just to be wowed by the shadows. I want them to layer on top of each other. I want it to be as versatile as possible because, like I said, you only have 1 matte. So I want these guys to perform to the highest degree if I'm going to pay that amount for it. And yes, I saved 20%, but that's neither here nor there. The starting point is $61. That's a high bar that the product is setting for itself, or I suppose the company is setting for its product. And this has just underwhelmed me. I have played around with it. I have tried different techniques. I've tried applying with my fingers, with brush, with MAC Fix Plus, and it just, at the end of the day, all looks the same. And I mean literally at the end of the day. Like if I put more than 1 color on my eye, they all just sort of migrate during the day, so it all just becomes 1 tone. The other day I wore the shade Nude here. So I wore this one all over my lid, applied with my finger to build up the pigmentation as much as possible. And then I went in and used the Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions palette, this guy here, and used some of these sort of warmer plummy tones to blend out the edges and deepen up the outer corner, just so that there was some dimension on my eye. And when I got home from work, I took a look at my makeup, and it's like it had sucked those darker shades across, almost like, you know when you like wet a paper and you can see, like we all did those experiments in high school where like you'd had colored water in a glass and you'd dip a piece of paper and you'd watch the colors go, like the chromatography. Wow, I just impressed myself. That's a word I probably haven't used since high school, but the colors transfer up. And that's what I felt was happening with my eyeshadow. Like it was the weirdest thing, and it's not that my eyeshadow really got dark per se, it was more that the dark areas that were, it was more that the areas that were dark in the morning had got light. Like it had just disappeared. Like it was bizarre. And these shadows in the Huda Beauty palette don't do that. Like these perform beautifully, and when I wear just these, I have no issues with that. The colors are distinct at the end of the night, and it still frankly looks about as good at the end of the day as it did when I applied it in the morning. And I cannot say the same for the Natasha Denona palette, unfortunately. So I'm going to do 3 different swatches just so that you can see what the range of possibilities are with these shadows. I'm going to do a finger swatch, I'm going to do a brush swatch using a Luxie short shader brush. It is clean, it's just a little bit stained from the pigmentation of the Huda Beauty palette. And then I'm going to do a brush swatch with MAC Fix Plus sprayed on top of it. For all of them, I'm going to apply the Too Faced Shadow Insurance. This was the leftover from doing this swatch because I forgot to turn the brush over. This is the one with the MAC Fix Plus on it. So I think the swatches speak for themselves. I have tried these shadows with different brushes. I have tried to really build up the amount of product on the brush. that just tends to lead to a little bit of fallout, but it doesn't really up the oomph factor, if we can say that. So, I mean, it breaks my heart because, here, let's do it this way, because this blue is stunning. Like, it is beautiful. And the matte, like deep orangey, almost brickish kind of color is beautiful. But this is so underwhelming. This red is incredibly disappointing, and then unless you apply a very heavy finger swatch of nude on your eye, it's just not even really going to show up. And this is the one that I found other colors tend to bleed into, so it doesn't even hold its true color throughout the day. I feel like I might have, maybe not exact dupes, but close enough. I don't have primer on my arm, but you can see those two shades do, I really need to practice swatching. I don't know how people do it, it's beyond me. But you can see that those two shades, so what are they called? Burnt Terracotta and Ice Blue. They perform lovely with finger swatches, especially that blue. It's so stunning. So this is Morocco from Makeup Geek, and this is Burnt Terracotta from Natasha Denona. And this one is a bit deeper, a little bit darker undertone, but they're very similar. And frankly, if I saw one without seeing the other beside it, I don't honestly think that I would be able to tell the difference between the two of them. So there is Mermaid, and there is Blue Ice, or Ice Blue. What the hell's it called? Ice Blue. They're very similar, except that Ice Blue has more shimmer to it. So if Natasha Denona ever comes out with singles, Ice Blue will be top of my list. There you have it. I just am not impressed with this palette, I'm sorry to say. I will say that the more shimmery shades, the ones on the end, do feel quite dry and scratchy. Like they don't have that sort of creamy feel that a lot of shimmery shades do have. Yeah, the only one that doesn't feel dry is the blue and the matte. Like those two don't feel dry. The rest of them do feel quite, like the red feels almost chunky. So the verdict is in. Aeris is guilty of being underperforming. And its sentence is to be returned to Sephora. All that to say, I think there are definitely better items on the market. And I keep coming back to these Huda Beauty palettes, but they impress the pants off me. They're 9 pans, they're 35 Canadian, they're excellent quality. The shimmers perform every bit as well as the mattes. They last all day. This is where I would put my money instead of the Natasha Denona. So I'm sorry that this isn't a more positive review, but this is just sort of honestly how I feel. And if I can spare you from spending $60 on something that I don't think is really worth that amount, I'm gonna let you know. If you have bought this palette and it works well for you, please let me know what it is that you use. What kind of brush do you use? Do you just use your fingers? What kind of eyeshadow base do you use? I'd like to know what other people's experience of this is. It could be user error on my end. That's entirely possible. So that's what I love about like the Instagram and the YouTube community, is that we all have different experiences and we all have different approaches to things, so we can all share and we can all learn. So please feel free to comment below what your experience with Natasha Denona as a brand has been. What do you love? What do you hate? Let me have it. And I will catch you in the next video. Until then, be a decent human being. Bye, guys. Also, I'm just realizing just how gray my hair is. So, I'm going to employ a technique. It's a very intricate technique. It has taken a long time for me to hone to address the hair situation. I like to call this technique not giving a fuck.